This is the $1 million game, hosted here under the bright lights of Hustler Casino Live. With about $10 million on the table, I find myself in the biggest game of my life with over $1.5 million in front of me. Will I punt it off or come out on top? Only one way to find out. Let's get right into the action. Before we get into the video, just want to give a big thank you to everyone at Hustler who helped make this game happen. If you want to see an in-depth look as to what goes on behind the scenes of this game, head over to my personal channel, Ethan Yao. Without further ado, let's strap in. After getting settled in, let's play some hands. We start a round of straddle, so playing 500 1K 2K, and I have King Jack offsuit from the hijack. Raise it up to 5,000. The legend Tony G calls in the straddle, and we're off to a flop of Jack Jack 10 Rainbow. Sick flop here with trips, and I throw out a bet of 3,000 and end up facing a check raise to 8,000. What a great start here with what's likely the best hand. You know, I only lose to Ace Jack and Jack 10. I go over and 3-bet to a casual amount of 25,000. That's right. Well, here we are, 25,000 in front of me. Tony makes the call, and with already over $60,000 in the middle, we've got a pot brewing. Turn is the 3 of spades, and on this turn card, Tony does something a little unorthodox. Bets out 25,000, and I think this is a pretty weird spot to lead, but it does kind of slow me down a little bit. This sizing is just big enough for me to make the call. I could have raised, but it seemed like a little bit of an overplay. Anyways, I make the call here, and on the river is a queen. A scary card at that, as I could easily run into Queen Jack a lot here, but when Tony decides to check now, it really doesn't seem likely that he has a full house. So I'm only going to get value from a worse Jack if I decide to bet, and I'm going to bet big here. There's not many worse Jacks than my king, honestly, at this point. Obviously, Queen Jack and Jack 10 are accounted for to be boats, so I guess that leaves Jack 9. I don't know. It's a little bit ambitious, but with 114,000 in the middle, I throw out a bet of 110,000. Over 100K bet already starting off on this stream. And if Tony G makes the call, this will be one of the biggest pots I'll ever have played in my entire life. And Tony goes into the tank. He doesn't love it, but does end up making the call just like that. Starting the $1 million game, scooping a $330,000 pot. This is one way to get settled in the biggest game of my life. Shortly after that hand, about 10 minutes later, I pick up 9s. Huss raises to 10,000 from the small blind, and I'm thinking I can either go with a raise or call, and raise seems to make the most sense. Trying to be aggressive here in position, I bump it up to 35,000. Folds to Huss, and he came to battle, makes the call, and we're off to a flop of Ace 6-3 Rainbow. Overall, a pretty dry ace-high board, and when Huss checks it over to me, I decide to go for a really small bet, almost 10% pot to 8,000. In hindsight, feeling a little bit iffy about this decision because I think 9s needs a little bit of protection, but I'm thinking I'm either way ahead or way behind a lot of the time with this hand, and, you know, I certainly could have other hands like Ace-King or Aces for value. Anyways, this small bet allows Huss to come along, and we see the turn 7 of diamonds. Brings in the backdoor flush draw, and Huss checks. And now it's decision time for me. Definitely feeling like checking is a valid option, but also when Huss only makes the call on the flop, it leads me to believe that I may have the best hand here a lot of the time. In my mind, I just wanted to check, but the hands don't cooperate with my mind. They say otherwise and grab chips, throwing almost a pot-sized bet out there for about $80,000. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, now looking at hindsight, I'm not loving the situation because if Huss calls, you know, at the very least, I can go check on the river and get the showdown. But here, Huss goes full savage mode and check raises to 230,000, putting my hand in quite the dilemma. Honestly, I don't think I have a really great hand to call this trick raise. You know, I block some of the 8-9 combinations of hands that would do this as a bluff. Blocking some straight draws, I let this one go and immediately see some bad news as he shows the bluff. Rip me. Let's bounce back from that hand. I pick up Ace Queen, and Tony G raises to 4,000 under the gun. Here, definitely going to re-raise with a very strong hand. I bump it up to 15,000 at this point. If only I could see the cards real time, unfortunately. This could get ugly, and I don't even know it. Tony G makes the call, and we go to a flop, which comes Ace 8-5. With top pair, I think my hand is good a lot of the time, and a lot of the time it is good, but you see the graphics on screen, not good news for me. I see bet $8,000, and to the $8,000 bet, Tony check raises to $30,000. You know, I can't see the cards here. I don't have access to the graphics, but obviously I'm happy to make the call with a very strong ace. I beat a whole lot right now, and we're going to a turn which is a deuce. A complete brick here, and Tony continues firing again for $50,000, a little bit more than half the pot. I decided to make the call. Of course, I'm expecting to win a lot of the time here with ace-queen. I literally only lose to, well, ace-king and sometimes some sets. And we're going to a river which comes a board pairing 8. It's an amazing card now because only one combination of pocket 8s exists, and it's more than likely that I'm ahead. My opponent fires out 105,000, and I don't think I have much of a decision here. It's a quick call from me, and I see the bad news. Lose to ace-king, and this is not how I want this session to go. I start off winning a $330,000 pot, feeling good, then snap lose to a $240,000 bluff, and now losing a $400,000 pot. No longer feeling so great, but we've got to try to battle back somehow. And about an hour later after that hand, let's set the scene up here. We're playing the stand-up game, and I'm one of the final 2 players left, and whoever is last to win a pot on this table owes everyone $6,000. It's pretty huge to fade this, since owing everyone $6K is around $42,000. So now you know the deal, and I pick up 10-7 offsuit in the hijack. Very standard open, of course. I raise it up, and Pav, who's been really aggressive all session long, 3-bets me to 10,000. It folds to me. I'm not in a folding mood, especially against this opponent who's been very aggressive all night. I'm here to battle with an offsuit 2 middling cards, off to a flop of 7, 6, 5, 2 clubs. Immediately seeing this flop flopping top pair, I'm just not going to fold this one, guys, as a heads up. I check, and Pav c-bets 15,000. I make the call, of course. Going to a turn which is the 5 of clubs. Not loving this card, and I check it over to him again. Obviously, flush completes. Don't have a club isn't great, and Pav bets again for $40,000, ramping up the aggression. I expect this from an opponent like Pav, who's definitely not going to slow down and stop, but yeah, I'm too stuck to fold. The stand-up game is on. I already told you from the beginning. I'm not folding this hand. Even though I should probably consider it, it's not happening this time. I make the call, and the river is a red jack. I mean, it's a card over my pair. It's really not a great spot. I check again, hoping to get the showdown, but Pav does not slow down and fires out $100,000. Don't have a single club in my hand, facing a really large bet. YOLO. Let's hope all of this aggressiveness means a bluff. Very ambitious, and I just don't want to lose a stand-up game. I pay $100,000 to see his hand, and it's great news. 10-9 offsuit, not going to win it, although a very good combination for my opponent to bluff. And it's nice to win this hand. I get unstuck, I get de-tilted, and I win the stand-up game. This is a win-win-win for us. The following hand is quite the crapshoot, to be honest. There's a raise to 3,000 and what seems to be 14 callers of this 3K. I'm in there with pocket 5s in the small blind, and now hands 3-bets and squeezes from the big line to 17,000. This hand's a crapshoot because action folds all the way back to me. No one else left to act, but Huss ends up exposing his cards while folding. Queen deuce he folds, which, you know, these 2 cards become very relevant as the hand goes on. But I'm last to act here. I'm out of position. We're playing very, very deep, so why not gamble? I make the call. Going to see a flop of queen 5-3, 2 clubs. Middle set is amazing here, and we know that a queen is dead. I warned you guys, this hand is about to be a crapshoot. I check it over to hands, and he bets 10,000. And I think it's definitely time to check raise here because I have a big hand. My opponent can have overpairs. I make it big, 50,000 to go. And upon this 50,000 check raise, my opponent makes the call. So we've really got a pot brewing, and the turn is the deuce of clubs. The flush gets there, and obviously queen deuce is dead. And I certainly feel like I could be cautious here and check, or could certainly fire away again, but with the set playing out of position, I decided to check and be on the cautious side. Hands ends up checking this one back, and we see an amazing river, a deuce. The paired board is amazing, and like I said, remember how queen deuce was mucked? Well, now sitting with a full house, I decided to fire out an overbet to the pot of 200,000. Granted, this might be a little bit greedy. My opponent obviously never really has a flush as played, so I don't really get a whole lot of value for much, but he is sitting with kings with a club. This would be a pretty gross spot for hands, and he tanks and ends up making an incredible fold with kings. Well played by him. Basically ends up losing the minimum as how I played it. In hindsight, should have bet the turn, could have got a lot of money, should have bet the river as well. Anyways, this hand didn't work out for me, but that big fold by hands leads up to this. I pick up a suited ace in the small blind and raises it up to 9,000. Hands and Pav ends up making the call. I'm not expecting either of them to be super strong here as they didn't 3-bet me pre-flop. So going to a flop of Queen, Jack 10, Rainbow, and I'm expecting to have the range advantage here as the pre-flop aggressor. Anyways, I check. Hands checks, and Pav throws out a bet of 15,000. And, initially, like I said, I think I have the advantage here, and I'm going to play this like I have sets or straights. I bump things up with a check raise to 50,000. And upon my check raise here, hands, he does not snap fold, which is somewhat troubling. And he ends up actually making the call for the $50,000. Pav ends up folding, and now not feeling good. Definitely need to tread cautiously here, in my opinion. I suspect this opponent to have a very strong hand. Pair plus flush draw, or even just a straight right now. Pav folds, and we're going to a turn, which is the deuce of clubs. Oh my goodness. When I see that my backdoor improves to having outs and seeing this club on the turn, I think we're choosing the path of violence. I have to apply maximum pressure here to all of his holdings. I always have ace-king. I don't think my opponent has ace-king. And I don't think my opponent really has a set here ever. So I look at hands' stack. It looks like he has about 800,000 in front of him. And I'm going to be betting an amount to be all in on the river. I bet more than the pot, sizing to 175,000. This is by far the largest wager and amount that I've ever put out before, and it's only on the turn. Honestly, this starts feeling like a tournament in my head because these numbers are just really outrageous, and it's the only way to cope with throwing out $175,000 into the middle. And hands takes his time. He does end up making the call. Oh, dear God. Please give me a club dealer. River, it's a black 5. It's a spade, though. Crap. Totally bricked out. The board is basically unchanged since the flop. And what's scary is I had a plan in mind to go all in. And it's time to execute on that, firmly believing that my opponent is going to fold a lot of the 2-pair holdings that he could have. But if he does have a straight, then I'm really, really kicking myself because this would get very, very expensive real quick. But I'm sticking to the plan. I close my eyes, and I'm all in for over $600,000 effective. At this point, everything in my head just goes silent.
Hands just called pre-flop. And he's going to fold, and Rampage gets it through. Oh, my God. Unbelievable.
We got a game!
Wow.
And just like that, I show my bluff, and a $1.1 million pot is pushed my way. I risked a lot to win this one, but one of poker's biggest bluffs on stream was captured, and I'm just happy it all worked out in my favor. For what it's worth, I think hands made a really good fold in theory, and it seems really unlucky for him that I was bluffing this time as I was trying to fold out 2-pair, and here a set is essentially the same thing. Overall, very, very lucky to be on the right side of this one. After that insane hand, we have the stand-up game back on, and once again, I'm one of the last 2 people left, me and Stanley. So, for that reason, I raise up the King 7 because I just need to. Action folds around to Stanley, sitting on a relatively short stack.
Oh, yeah. If Stanley can win a hand and make Rampage pay, it'll be awesome.
This is it.
Yep. Jam on him, Stanley. Let's go. Jam on him.
Stanley shoves for $80,000, give or take. It's relatively a small amount for this game, but certainly not a small amount for the strength of my hand. King 7 is not a good one, and I'm in a pretty agonizing spot with what I want to do. Do I fold and just automatically lose the stand-up game, or do I call and gamble with a bad hand, but also still potentially could still lose the stand-up game if I lose the all-in? I think about it for a while.
Yes.
This is so not fun.
Rampage won a gamble.
So not fun at all. Who came up with this stupid fucking game? I should have just shoved.
What did you have earlier?
Huh?
What did you have earlier against me? A king? A king? Should have shown that one. You should have shown that one. I don't want to show. Too big.
Alright then.
Come on, this guy. I'm gonna forget to show.
I end up just folding, and Stanley owns my soul by showing me the 9-5 offsuit. One of the youngest billionaires in the world, Stanley Tang. I can't hang with you, man. Nice hand. Well played. This was a very fun one to be a part of. Moving along, from +1 position, I raise up 40% of a royal to 3,000. Pav here surprisingly only makes the call and doesn't 3-bet me, and this allows Stanley to make the call. Going 3 ways, the flop comes king, queen, 8, 2 clubs. Pretty sick, flopping open-ended plus a flush draw. Action checks to Pav, who throws out a bet of 8,000, and when Stanley makes the call, there's just no way in hell I'm ever calling here with a pretty sick combo draw. I check raise to 35,000, Pav quickly gets out of the way and folds, but Stanley, getting a little sticky here, makes the call. So we're going to battle it out here. The turn is the queen of diamonds. It pairs the board, and I don't really feel great about my combo draw anymore. So happy to take a free card. Action goes check, check here in the river. Bink deuce of clubs. I get there with the flush. Stanley decides to lead out for $100,000 over betting the pot. And obviously I know I'm just never going to be folding here, and maybe you can call me nit rolling, but I just wanted to go through my thought process and make sure I have everything kind of figured out, because $100,000 bet is certainly not a small one, and it's bigger than the size of the pots. Anyways, with the flush, I ended up making the call, and he doesn't show the bluff, but tells me I'm good. Now things are really going smoothly, up around $590,000 on the session so far here, and also with lots of play left in the day. What do you know? I finally pick up aces. Let's freaking go. I can't describe how good it feels to have over $1 million in front of me and look down at the best hand in poker. Here with aces, super excited to play them. I raise it up to 3,000. Pav makes a call on the button, and now Stanley picks up some raising chips. Very unfortunate time for him to 3-betting here, but he makes it 16,000. Here now, typically a very good spot to 4-bet, but given how aggressive Pav has been this session, I decided to make the call, and maybe he could entice him to raise, but he makes the call. So 3 ways to a flop of ace, king, 3, all clubs. Flopping top set's pretty fun, but on a monotone board, less fun here. Stanley decides to check it over to me, and I think it's a pretty tricky spot to not navigate a set here multi-way. I decided to throw it a small bet. Obviously, it's not a very nutted hand, as I still could be behind some flushes, but here we are in this situation. I throw out 15,000. Pav could literally have any 2 cards here at this point. He ends up making the call. Stanley gets out of the way, and we're going heads up to a turn now, hoping the board to pair. Turn comes a 4. It's very nice to see a red card, but I do want to tread on the side of caution here. I'm playing super deep stacked against a very capable and aggressive opponent. I check it over to him, and he decides to fire out 50,000. There's basically nothing for me to do here besides make the call. Could easily be behind, and I don't think it makes much sense to raise now, so we're off to see a river, which comes a 5. It's nice to see another red card. It looks safe enough besides any deuce making a straight, but if I was already ahead on the flop, I should still be ahead now. I check it over to Pav, and he thinks it over, and he ends up giving up on his bluff, which is pretty impressive, and checks back. It's always nice to win a pot in this game, but especially so with aces for sure. And also big props to Pav for fighting the give up here, as I certainly wasn't going to be folding a set on the river, and he saved some money. With momentum on my side, I raised this one up to $5,000 with the mandatory straddle on now. Two opponents make the call, and we're off to a flop of ace, queen, 3 rainbow. Action checks the hands here, throws out a very small bet of 5,000. Wesley ends up folding, and I think I have a very good candidate to continue with a call. But the issue with that is I don't think it allows me to win that much because I just have a gut shot straight draw, and I decided to opt for a check raise to 18,000. This certainly gives me more room to work with, a little bit more leverage to win this pot right now without hitting my draw. And for 18,000 here, well, my hands makes the call. But one thing's for sure, he certainly doesn't have aces or queens in my opinion. So we're going to a turn with the advantage, and the turn is the 8 of hearts. It brings in a backdoor flush draw along with giving me a very cool double gutter. Any king or 9 gives me a straight, which would be amazing to see. And I decide to apply maximum pressure here by betting about the size of the pot to 60,000. Here, hands facing a really big bet with what I didn't know at the time was a very strong hand. He comes along again, so gotta tread cautiously once again as these pots balloon up. I have nothing. We're off to a river, which is the 6 of spades, a total brick. And all I'm asking myself here is, can I bluff hands here with a big bet? And is this even a good idea to do so? I think about this for about a minute or two at this point, and I just can't put myself to blast off another 175,000-ish is what I probably was going to bet. So this hand, I decide to give up and check. Hand throws out a bet, and it's a snap fold for me. Don't even want to think about getting creative and check raising the river. I fold this one. It's nice to know that I made a good decision in real time as he had a very strong top 2 holding. It's nice to feel like I won this one even though I lost. One of the last big hands of the night I'm going to be playing here. The blinds have increased. Everyone at the table agreed to play a much bigger game. It's now 1,000, 2,000, 4,000. The stakes are massive. I raise up the queen 9 of clubs from the cutoff, and hands raises me again 3 bets to 30,000 from the button. Action folds back to me here, and hand has raised me a few times now at this point. So we're trying to battle back versus him. And not necessarily the best hand to 4-bet with, but, we've got to mix it in with the streets here. I 4-bet to $100,000, and hands looks like he has a pretty good hand. He's not going to be folding this one. He makes the call. So we've had a really big pot brewing, and I've got a very bad hand. The flop is ace, 6, 7, 2 diamonds. These ace high boards here are typically supposed to be better for the 4-better, and I'm going to try to rep a strong ace. I decided to throw out a bet of 40,000, hoping that hands could have a smaller pocket pair that doesn't feel comfortable, but when he does end up making the call, it's quite concerning here, to be honest, and we've got a really big pot brewing. I'm sticking to the theme of having nothing, of course. The turn comes another ace, brings in a backdoor flush draw, and at this point, I'm kind of over this hand, kind of done with it. I experimented with the 4-bets, I got called on the flop, and now with essentially nothing, I just have such better hands to blast off here if I wanted to. So I give up, check it over to hands, who throws out a bet of 150,000. For a very, very brief moment, I thought about check raising again on this turn, but yeah, I'm not going to do it this time. I end up just folding, and that's the last interesting hand of my $1 million game. Hey guys, I have a very special announcement for a very limited time only. I have my friends make these custom luck box hoodies with the gold print here on the sleeve. I have the black one that I wore during the stream here, and also it comes in white as well. I kind of just like both of them. The gold just pops out really well. But for a very limited time, only 72 hours, I'm selling a very special drop because I had this made for the very big event. It's nice to win. And also, I'm giving away a 1% free roll to my next Hustler stream appearance, which might come actually at the end of this week that you're watching this video. So the drop is live for only 72 hours. There's a very limited amount made, and there's gonna be one winner who's gonna win a 1% free roll if I win. So really excited for this. Thanks so much for all the support in this $1 million game. Just happy to come out alive. Big shout out to everyone who bought a piece on Stake Kings. And yeah, rampagepokerstore.com. You can grab one of these sweet hoodies, gold luck box 1-of-1 edition. Only 72 hours. It's not going to be restocked. Just to commemorate the really cool, fun experience that I had in this video. So Thanks for all the support. Love the black. Starting to fall in love with the white, to be honest. I chose the black for the stream. Both are great. Thanks for all the support, guys. rampagepokerstore.com. 1% free roll for one lucky person who buys the merch. Cashed out. I'm home. Did all the things and ended up a very successful $1 million game. Appreciate everyone on Stake Kings that bought action. You know, sometimes it doesn't work out. The last couple times I've sold action, didn't work out, but for the people who did finally buy action, I finally booked a win. Going over some details, some numbers, I bought in for $1 million and I ended up winning $1,592,000. For full transparency, I had just under 25% of myself. The exact number is like 23 to 24%. So I ended up booking like $130,000 win, give or take. I don't have all the numbers and details out yet, but that's it. Big thank you for all the support. Going through my phone's blowing up. Just feels good to be able to survive and win in such a prestigious, big, large event. And the game played pretty freaking massive. It's nice to run good in the past couple hours of the stream. Big thank you to everyone who's watching this video. If you wanted to grab one, much appreciated, you guys. It looks pretty fire. It's gold, it's flashy, and it might be the source of some run good because I finally got to win on a really big game in Hustler. But that's only for a limited time. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.